Good about those. Thanks again for tuning in to yet another video. Infamous coming at you live from the West Coast yet again, San Jose, California. So we are looking at two motorcycles today. I made a video about the $17,000 difference between the regular standard road glide and, of course, the one you guys are watching, the CVO ST, $17,000. I went into a lot of details and I decided, you know what, I'm going to edit this, cut it out, and then just make a full video of just comparing both of these bikes so you guys could probably see the difference. Quite honestly, if you have the money, obviously you are going to settle for the CVO ST. I mean, it's a CVO, I guess. I mean, if it really matters, you guys can let me know in the comments. Does the CVO badging really matter? Of course, I mean, it does retain its value. And when you do decide, of course, to sell it, you could, sell it for a higher price. Unlike the standard, of course, $26,000. $43,000. Another huge difference is of course you don't have to sink in as much as you would with the standard. Of course, standard you're probably looking at maybe a stage 2, maybe you're looking at swapping out the exhaust, upgrading the suspension, stuff like that. With the CVO, you don't have to do all of that. I mean, eventually people will modify it, of course, the people that have the extra dough, but you don't have to sink in as much as you would have to with the CVO ST. So technically, I think you're going to see a little bit more of that in return. And then another key factor is, once you consider, like I said, depending if you do your own work, or maybe you're someone that doesn't have the time to do it, maybe you're someone that's not mechanically skilled or whatever, maybe it just depends, of course. So maybe the $17,000 looks a little bit more tempting, considering that, of course, you have labor and you have the parts. $17,000 is actually a pretty good deal if you don't plan on doing the work yourself. So anyways, enough rambling. Let's go ahead and take a look at both of these bikes. Of course, 2024, Harley did a lot with the Road Glide, the standard, of course, this one right over here. Let's go ahead and just click on the chrome trim with the billiard gray, because that's the $26,000. Good looking bike all the way around. Completely overhauled the overall design on the Mount Rushmore models, which were introduced in 2014. Finally, a significant upgrade. Other than, of course, the powertrain, we went from a twin can to a Milwaukee 8 in 2017, and that's pretty much the only change. Same frame, of course, just improved suspension and improved, I guess, electronics. Depending on what year you get, depending on what year you do get, there's still a lot of glitches, in these bikes. 2024, they're new bikes. Harley's not known for, for the modern stuff, the electronics, the Revolution Max. I'm not gonna get into that in this video, but just selecting black trim with the white onyx pearl, you can see them side by side. These bikes are identical. All right, you get a lot. This is just why the standard is such a good deal, because you get a lot of the key features in the CVO ST. I mean, everything's pretty much included. All the features that makes the CVO ST special, or sport touring, or whatever you want to call it, you have that in the standard. So there really isn't. I mean, there really isn't a reason or a incentive to spend the additional $17,000, unless, of course, you just want to show off how much money. I mean, how much money you could throw away, I guess. A lot of folks can agree in the comments that it's just the CVO badge. It just means, hey, look at my wallet, I guess. But I mean, there's also the standard CVOs, or the regular CVOs, that do have good unique paint jobs. They have, of course, VVT. A lot of folks are talking about how great the VVT is. Cam phasers, I don't know. All right, only time will tell. So, of course, I mean, I don't know, guys. You guys can let me know in the comments. Of course, you don't have two-up riding capabilities on this. Of course, you don't have the passenger foot pegs. You do have a 121 carbon fiber. But what people don't realize is this high output 121 has a unique RPM for its peak power, its peak performance. All right, I'm just gonna say the 117 liquid cooled heads. Of course, like I said, a lot of the features that the CVO has are already standard in the 2024 standard Road Glide. So of course, this is going to handle a little bit more traditionally. If you've ridden Harleys at all, you know that they're great low-end torquey bikes. This is a 117, so it's going to respond, especially with the sport mode, because it also have riding modes. It's going to be a little bit more responsive in the bottom end. All right, I mean that's the difference between this and this. You have a high output. This has 121 horsepower, I believe, if I remember correctly off of the top of my head. But this one likes to come alive around 4,000 to 5,000 RPM. Your standard is around 2,000 to 3,000 RPM. That's where it comes alive. And this is what people just don't, realize when it comes to, of course, the cam options out there. You have 465, you have 468, you have great low-end torquey cams, and then of course you have your horsepower cams, your highway cams, which is pretty much what you get with the 121. And we'll get into it a little bit more. Like I said, I got a little bit more into it in the details in the other video. It's just the other video ended up being like 22 minutes, and I cut out 10 minutes of that stuff. So you guys can, just share your comments down below. $17,000. Like I said, you could do a lot with $17,000. Of course, this is the black trim with the premium plus color, so it's not technically 17. It's more around $14,800. But even with $14,800, you could do a lot to this, and you can still save yourself a ton of money. Another thing that I also cut out in the last video was your insurance payment's going to be lower on this, of course, because you don't have to insure a $45,000 bike like you do with the CVO ST. All right, so your insurance payment's going to be lower. Your dealer fees and your markups are also going to be lower because it doesn't have the CVO badging. I also mentioned in the other video, depending on your country, because Canada has a CC or a displacement insurance. Anything over 1,000 cc's, your pricing jumps up. Your cost of the insurance goes up dramatically. So instead of having what is this? Man, I can't remember off of the top of my head. I believe this is 1,800 cc's. I believe this is 2,000, or is that the 124? I think this is I can't remember. It's somewhere 1,900 to 2,000 cc's because it's a 121, so your insurance is going to be higher, depending on, of course, your whatever country you live in. Of course, this also has a sport touring, so maybe the insurance will deem it or label it as a sport bike. Now your insurance is twice as much, depending on your age, depending on if you're married or you're single, or if you have kids. All of that factors in, depending on the city you live in. That's also a big a big factor. So your costs, of course, they're going to be double. Markups, insurance, and stuff like that. So it's just little stuff to kind of note and keep track of. So I mean, great looking bikes. All right, I'm starting to grow. I'm starting to like the new shark nose fairing, LED all the way around. I mean, there's just so much to note here, guys, compared to the Milwaukee 8s last gen. Like I said, Mount Rushmore, Harley did quite a bit of tweaks and upgrades and stuff like that. So getting into the side-by-side comparison, of course, $43,000, $26,000. Like I said, if you get the premium color with the blacked out trim, meaning your fork covers are black, the engine blacked out, of course, your exhaust black, and handlebars, all of this other stuff, it's all blacked out. Just like the CVO ST. If you want to save the $1,300, then of course you're going to get the chrome dash, chrome handlebars, the chrome fork covers, forks, chrome engine, air cleaner, the exhaust, of course, just little stuff like that, of course. And anyways, getting back onto the comparison, rider positioning the same. These are, like I said, these are the same bike. You just have a few little features that you don't get on the Road Glide. But like I said, $17,000, I don't know. You have the foot controls, floorboards. I like the placement of these. They're a little bit forward, but the floorboards are long enough for you to shift your legs, back towards you. Well, not behind you, but just to kind of have a mid-control feel, out of the bike. That way, whatever you're comfortable with, of course. So the floorboards are a little bit longer, so you have good, positioning on your feet wherever you feel like it suits you best. So of course, here's the difference right here. The passenger seat. You have the passenger seat on the standard. You have a 2-up seat. Of course, you also have, as you can see, the passenger foot pegs. If you want that on the CVO ST, that's going to cost you about $800, depending on, of course, the seat. The seat might be about $600, plus the passenger foot pegs. You're looking at about $200 if you get it from Harley-Davidson OEM. That's not including labor. If you don't know how to do it, that's going to probably cost you $180 to get that stuff installed. So moving on down, of course, to the comparison storage. The saddlebags they're the same. Okay, same saddlebags. That's why I'm, like I mentioned, you're getting the CVO styling, the CVO features, and you're also getting liquid cooled heads, 117. I mean, there's just a lot to like with what Harley did in 2024. The fairing, of course, frame mounted fairing, because they're road glides. All right, if you're looking at the street glide, then that's a fork mounted fairing. All right, so it moves with the bike when you're turning the front wheel. The fairing moves. Frame mounted, the fairing stays positioned. It doesn't move or nothing like that. Your headlight is always pointing straight. All right. So moving on down to the infotainment system. Yes, on both, but like I said, Harley made a huge upgrade, 12.1, I believe, on both. So this is a 12.1 TFT display, massive. No more analog gauges on these. All right, guys. So massive, same display. Why would you spend the $17,000 when you're getting pretty much everything that really matters? And here's the big one right here. RDRS. This is all the rider safety enhancements available from Harley-Davidson. You have slip control, track control, ABS, cornering ABS, hold, hill hold. I mean, there's just so much brake linkage, where I guess they're both. I'm not too sure about that one, but I'll show you guys the rider safety enhancements. Everything's included. I know a lot of people make an argument that they don't want to pay for this stuff because they have experience riding the bike, but I've always mentioned you have to be on point every single time. All right, you really have to be on it. And then of course you can't be panicking. I mean, there's just so many things. It's just the way I see it. It's nice to kind of have this safety enhancement, kind of like an engine guard. Yes, not everybody's going to drop their bike. Yes, not everybody's going to have an accident. Yes, you might be experienced. All right, that engine guard can save your bike. I've dropped my bike. It saved my bike. I could have probably made damages on my forks, on my fuel tank, on my exhaust. If it wasn't for the engine guard, when I dropped my bike, I mean, $200, $300 saved me probably thousands of dollars in repairs. That's what I'm just saying. Yes, RDRS, probably $2,000 if you include the ABS, but it could potentially save you a lot of money down the road. I almost had a accident on a Pursuit Elite, I believe, the Pursuit Elite 2 years ago on the freeway when I was test riding it. I was distracted and the ABS kicked in, and if it wasn't for the ABS, I probably could have gone down, because of course you get that shock, that reaction, you grab a handful of brake, and I saw it on the display. The ABS was flashing. It was indicating that it was being activated. Anyways, moving on down to, of course, the additional options. Base color, of course, 26,000. You have a lot of different options on the colors because the Road Glide standard has a ton of options. So you have a ton of options here, and of course these are also accompanied by the trim. So chrome trim, black trim, a lot of little things here. Of course, the dimensions of them, they're the same bike, guys. All right, it's the same bike. The engine, this is where you're gonna see the difference. All right, so it's a 117 on the standard, and then you have the 121. This was an engine displacement that was introduced last year with the CVOs. So, I mean, for the most part, they're both, you know, they're both air cooled, liquid cooled heads. All right, they're both on a single crank shaft, of course. You know, the main, you know, everything about it, the valves, everything's identical. It's just the displacement is different, and I believe the cam and the high output is different on the CVO-ST, and that's where you're going to see one of the significant change out of them. So engine torque, of course, you can see it's 3,000, a little bit low end. On the CVO-ST, it's 4,000. So you have to, of course, build up a little bit more power so you can start seeing that performance. Same thing with the peak horsepower. You guys can also see it's a little bit lower towards the 4.5, and on the CVO-ST, the peak performance is closer to the 5,000 RPM range. So this is where I'm just mentioning, as far as the cam, I believe, you know, this is more of a torque cam because, of course, it's, you know, 20 horsepower under, and I believe it's got 130. You can see it's got 130 foot-pounds of torque. The CVO-ST, it's only 15, but you can see that the horsepower is 20 horsepower difference when it comes to the 121 and the 117. It's just, of course, like I said, I believe this is more of a higher lift cam, more of an aggressive cam on the CVO-ST. So it's going to handle different. It's going to have different tendencies on where the power range is gonna be at. But you know, moving on down, of course, you guys can see all the other details. Same miles per gallon. You know, as far as, you know, everything else, drivetrain, same, belt driven, same transmission. It's all the same. All right, same. Of course, the wheelbase, the length of the bike, it's all the same. The frame's the same. It's just, of course, you have the suspension on the CVO-ST, and it should be right here. So, like I mentioned, you have inverted forks on the CVO-ST. That could be a big one. And then you also have the rear suspension. So you have 3-inch of travel in the rear with the Road Glide. You also have 3 inches of travel, but you have a Showa suspension. So you have the rebound, you know, control, and the external reservoir and stuff like that. So you got that. Other than that, you know, these are pretty much the same. Of course, you also have floating, the wave style rotors on the CVO-ST. But what people don't realize is you have a standard non-wave rotor on the rear. So I don't know. It's just I find it a little, you know, I mean, it's a little funny, guys, that that Harley went with the front end wave rotors. They could have just thrown in one more on the rear instead of just giving you the standard, you know, the standard rotor. But of course, you also have dual disc rotors on the new 2024 Road Glide. But like I said, you guys can leave your comments down below. Are you guys okay with having a standard disc rotor in the rear? Does it really matter? I mean, most people are not going to be, you know, looking at it or paying attention. Sorry, I don't think the camera was on, but you can see it right there. Standard rotors on the rear. Just Harley, you know, just cheaped out a little bit. Come on, Harley, just throw it in there. It's not going to cost you that much more to manufacture that part if you're, you know, doing the front end. But anyways, let's go into, like I said, another key detail that you're going to notice right away. Okay, all the rider safety enhancements, all included on both bikes. All right, ABS included, linked braking included, traction control included. You guys can just see here. Okay, everything is included on the rider safety enhancements. The infotainment system, same. Look at this. All right, Skyline OS. Oh, it looks. Oh, that's right. You do have an improved sound system in the CVO-ST. So I guess that could be, you know, that's another one. But as you guys can see, everything else is identical all the way down. Anyways, enough rambling. You guys can let me know in the comments, where are you leaning towards? Are you leaning towards the standard Road Glide? You know, save yourself quite a bit of money. Save yourself on insurance, markups, dealer fees. I mean, we're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars that you're potentially saving by just getting the Road Glide and probably doing a stage 2. A lot of the aftermarket support is going to be there for this already. It's a 117. It's not a new engine. You could pretty much get any cam out there in the aftermarket and just throw that in there, because these bikes are pretty much, you know, the pump, the plate, everything's identical. The only really, you know, thing that people don't mention is the trans cover has a vented line. You can see it right there. They're actually they're venting the crank pressure, the blow by, through the trans cover, kind of like what you see on Trask with the Checkmate trans cover, the vented trans cover. That's how they're now venting the crankcase pressure on these new Milwaukee 8s. For a long time, for the last 3-4 decades, they would vent that pressure, that crankcase, that blow by, through the heads and into your breather. They no longer do that. Same thing with this one. It's got that same. You can see it right there. They have that same vented trans cover. You can see it. I don't know, right there. Hey, when you visit your dealership and you look at these bikes, look at that trans cover. You're gonna see it is now vented. So, like I mentioned, carbon fiber piece. Really, it's not even. It's a forged carbon fiber piece. Carbon fiber on the dash and carbon fiber on the seat. Carbon fiber tips on the exhaust. But I mean, most of you guys, of course, you guys are going to upgrade the exhaust. You guys are going to throw a 2-into-1. You now have, you know, standard saddlebags. They're not extended, so it's not going to look funny having, you know, that left side. You're also going to shave weight off of the exhaust, probably about 15 pounds, by getting rid of that pipe and you know, swapping over to something a little bit higher end and also a little bit lighter. So, anyways, thanks for tuning in. You guys can, you know, comment in the comment section. You know, is it really worth the $17,000? You have the flat bar on the ST, but you also have the chopped engine guard on the standard. I really like the way this one looks. So anyways, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Life's a risk. Get out there and ride. Later.